How strong is Kozuki Oden? This is a question that gets asked a lot in the community, and today we're going to try to answer it by going through his life and journey and dividing everything into three categories: feats, portrayal, and abilities. And then we're going to put him side by side with some top tiers of today like Yonko, Admirals, Mihawk, and we're going to try to scale how well he would do against these opponents. Starting off with portrayal, first and foremost, Oden was a part of Kaido's top 5 during his fight with Luffy on the roof of Onigashima. You could speculate that these 5 men were there because they are the 5 men Kaido respects the most, or because they were the 5 strongest men that Kaido has ever encountered. But even if these were just the men that Kaido respects, we know that Kaido respects strength. His entire character is based around strength and the value of strength and power within the world of One Piece. So in the case of Kaido specifically, respect and strength are basically the same thing. He wouldn't respect someone who's weak because you earn Kaido's respect by being strong. In a land full of some of the world's strongest samurai, Oden was undoubtedly the strongest. Keep in mind, Wano is seen across the world as a land full of incredibly strong samurai, where even the average samurai's strength far exceeds that of the average pirate or marine or any type of fighter outside of Wano. It may not have seemed like this while actually experiencing the Wano arc, but sometimes we forget that they were up against a Yonko, said to be the strongest, and his crew full of larger-than-life pirates with incredibly intimidating devil fruit abilities, and in some cases experimentation and body alterations, or just flat out with your DNA exceeding any other race on top of having an extremely hacked devil fruit as well. These guys were up against monsters, but guys like Ashura Doji, Inu and Neku, Kinemon, and the rest of the Scabbards, Boss Hyogoro, these were all very strong men in their own right. And we even see Akainu hesitant to enter the land of Wano solely due to not wanting to underestimate these very samurai. And Oden was significantly stronger than all of them. Oden is the only character ever who could say he has sailed with not one, but both of the 2 greatest pirates to ever exist. Roger and Whitebeard both had tremendous respect for Oden, both for his personality and his strength. And we see evidence of this when Whitebeard suddenly goes from laid back to extremely cautious and tells his crew to back away, just off feeling the presence of Oden alone. Whitebeard was able to sense he was a serious threat, and we see after Oden joins Whitebeard's crew for the first time with anyone, Whitebeard refers to him as a brother instead of a son. This couldn't have been because of age or experience, because there are many pirates within Whitebeard's crew who have been sailing for far longer than Oden, and we've seen some crew members who appear to be just as old, if not older, than Oden would have been today if he were alive. So this leads me to the conclusion that the distinguishing factor for Whitebeard calling him a brother and no one else was because of his strength. Although he was weaker than Whitebeard, I believe he was closer to Whitebeard in strength than he would be to the next strongest person on the crew. Whitebeard was still top dog, but this was finally a man worthy of being his right hand, his brother. And in the case of Roger, we see Roger take an interest in his strength almost right away. When the Whitebeard pirates dock on the island where the Roger pirates had been, Roger becomes extremely enthusiastic at the idea of fighting Oden one-on-one. And again, to say he was a match for Roger or Whitebeard would certainly be pushing it, but the foundation and the potential was always there, and Roger and Whitebeard both knew it. And I would say the potential paid off tremendously, as we find out after he returns back to Wano, he is stated to have become multiple times stronger throughout his voyages than he was when he first left. In terms of portrayal, there's very few characters who can match the level of portrayal Oda has given to Kozuki Oden. So if you guys are liking the video so far, why not go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated and helps me go a long way in making these videos. So please subscribe. And now let's talk about feats. It's almost surprising how many great feats Oden has for a character whose entire screen time is held in one single flashback. But for the sake of keeping this somewhat short, we're going to limit our discussion to just 5 feats from him. And the first one we're going to talk about is cutting down the mountain god boar. The reason I picked this feat isn't because of his strength or speed or hockey. We learn very early on that the true meaning of swordsmanship is to possess the ability to cut what you want to cut while also protecting what you want to protect. And I think the best example of this we have ever seen is right here when Oden cuts the mountain god boar. This boar was cut completely in 2 by Oden, and Oda later explains that the reason this boar was able to survive being split in 2 was because Oden's cut was so clean it did no internal damage whatsoever. He basically cut the giant boar in 2 without touching a single organ or cell. By definition given to us, this is the purest level of swordsmanship we have ever seen in my honest opinion. Next, I want to talk about his fight with Ashura Doji and the criminals of Kuri. There's not much to talk about here as this feat basically explains itself, but I did want to mention this one to showcase his incredible stamina, as we see Oden isn't just strong, but has stamina to match. The criminals of Kuri were all said to be very strong, and Ashura Doji turned out to be probably one of, if not his strongest scabbard. Oden fought them all by himself for an entire night and came out relatively fine in terms of stamina. And next we're going to talk about his fight, scarring, and almost defeating Kaido. This is one of Oden's most impressive feats. His fight with Kaido and scarring Kaido showcased more than anything his very high level of attack potency, with what can only be advanced conquerors coded on his Togen Totsuka attack, managing to scar Kaido deep enough to remain with him forever. But also even more impressive than that was his insane level of durability, being able to not just completely tank Kaido's royal breath at point blank range, but to drive and push through it with pure focus to land his own attack on Kaido, which he managed to succeed in doing. And I want to bring up real quick, this is something we've seen done again by Luffy in Gear 4 in his fight on the rooftop, but keep in mind, Luffy is made of rubber. He has a devil fruit and he was in Gear 4 form, which is coded in Armin Haki already. And almost anyone else that we see with crazy durability feats are either devil fruit users, natural born monsters like Big Mom, or a combination of both. Or in rare cases like with King, you're able to inherit some kind of natural DNA hacks with your species. Oden has none of these. The fact that Oden, a regular dude with no devil fruit, can match the durability of these people is absolutely insane. And so I gotta give him mad respect for being able to pull this off against Kaido. And the next one I want to discuss is the Legend of Hour. This is another one that basically explains itself. Again, a normal human with no devil fruit or natural durability hacks goes into a pot of burning oil that keeps getting hotter and manages to stand in it while holding up 9 men and stay in there for an entire hour. We could talk about the insane levels of strength it would take to pull this off, but honestly, I don't even care about that. The endurance shown here simply outshines everything else. We've seen some crazy strength feats throughout the story that could probably go toe to toe with this one, but I don't know if we've ever seen anything from an endurance standpoint anywhere near this level. To withstand that kind of pain for an entire hour and then go on to toss the board carrying these 9 scabbards in the air after holding it for so long and remain standing to face his death. Of everything we have ever seen from Oden, this moment here, the Hour of Legend, is the best of the best. And this last one isn't really a feat, but once we talk about it, I'll explain why I chose to include it with feats. In the peak of Zoro's fight against King, we see Enma draining his haki at an extreme rate, to the point where Enma is actually putting Zoro's life in danger and could potentially drain him of his life by taking all his haki. And Zoro can't help but to appreciate just how well Oden's haki usage must have been to fully tame such a rebellious sword. You could argue this falls more under the lines of Portrayal than Feats, but I chose to count it as a feat because it's something Zoro still cannot do to this day, and we see throughout Zoro's fight with King just how hard it is to actually achieve, while at the same time having confirmation that Oden achieved it. Now with Portrayal and Feats aside, we're going to talk about abilities. Right off the bat, we know Oden has haki, and we know he has Conqueror's haki at that, and most likely he has advanced Conqueror's haki. As we see with Zoro, the only way he was able to scar Kaido was once he unlocked his advanced Conqueror's haki, and we see Togen Totsuka was able to scar Kaido just as deep, if not deeper than Zoro's. And on top of that, Oden's Togen Totsuka has the black streaks that have been consistent with all advanced Conqueror's haki attacks we've seen so far. Oden also possesses top tier swordsmanship, as we mentioned before with the Mountain God, and understanding how to cut and protect at the same time with the utmost grace. And let's talk about Ame no Habakiri and Enma for a second. I would count these as abilities and separate them from swordsmanship because these swords are special. And once they are mastered, they're basically a whole new power up on their own and can expand your moveset and abilities exponentially. So where would I rank Oden amongst those who would be his peers today? I think with everything we've seen from him and how much stronger he had gotten toward the end of his life, I would have him above all Yonko commanders, including Ben Beckman, above all admirals past or present, with the exception of Akainu. And I would even go as far as to have him above some Yonko like Blackbeard and dare I say Buggy. However, I don't think he was impressive enough to put above the likes of Shanks, Kaido, or Mihawk. I think he still falls short of that top echelon of fighters. I think probably the closest people to him in strength would be Akainu and Big Mom. I would still have both of them above Oden, but not by much at all. And I'll leave you guys with this thought. Oden was the same age as Kaido, and even though Kaido sailed with rocks, Oden had far more experience in my opinion, having sailed with both Whitebeard and Roger and accompanying Roger in his most important year ever as a pirate, having actually been there to reach Raftel with him. Even in his fight with Kaido, Oden seemed to be slightly the stronger of the two, and I would argue his potential and ceiling was even greater than that of Kaido's. I want you guys to comment down below how strong you think Oden would have been if he were still alive today, the same age as Kaido, who is said to be the strongest. Let me know down below. More videos coming soon, subscribe if you enjoyed this one, and as always, thanks for watching.